AlphaFold 3 being released to open source.
Launches an AI news app to help publishers instead of just stealing their work. A way to train surgical robots using imitation learning.
Writer is a company that just got $200 million at a $2 billion valuation because enterprises are adopting them.
Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the Daily AI Show. Today, we are going to bring the news, interesting or not, from around the world from the last 7 days. Thank you for watching and listening. Today with me are Beth and Andy, and I am Jyunmi. All right, so it's Wednesday, it's news day, and I saw a bunch of exciting stories for myself. But before I go onto a tirade, Andy, what do you got for us?
Well, both Jyunmi and I are very interested in robotics and the application of AI to robotics and where that will find its way into practical and useful devices that are embodied AI. I saw just this morning, it was from a post on X, which I don't look at anymore, but if somebody references it, I'll go over and look at it because it's posted on X. And it's from a Korean company that is called Exoskeleton, that has developed a walk into exoskeleton for paraplegics. So the way it's called walk on, and it's not really that they walk over to the robot and put this exoskeleton on. They're in a wheelchair, their legs don't work, but they roll up to this device that then they fold into their chest area. And once that's in that position, I think they have to, attach some straps, around the back with their arms. They typically functional paraplegic has use of their arms and upper body. And then this device, they lean forward and the device basically grasps them around the upper body and lifts them into the standing position. And there are exoplates along the legs now. So they've stepped in, they've moved their legs into that. And then the user walks away from the wheelchair, starting with some balancing crutches, and then tosses the crutches away in the video and walks away. Now, this is an early demonstration. It wasn't tethered, though. It's a fully autonomous, device, an exoskeletal device. And it was demonstrated just in straight line forward walking. Now, but you've seen what robots can do. Eventually, they'll be dancing. So paraplegics have a lot of promise ahead with the development of those kinds of exoskeletal robots.
That's amazing. I love that. That's a great application. All right, so I'm going to have to go look this up and see what their plans are. Hopefully, they've laid out starting, with the legs. It'll be the full thing, and then, we'll have full robot exoskeleton suits and jumping and dancing and running around.
Well, you can imagine that there are exoskeletal robotic developments happening for military.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So, and that would be full body.
That's awesome. I
see my third eye is just shining here.
He's shirt out, right? Yeah. After experiencing a few days of rain. Okay. Well, Beth, do you have a robot story? Because I got a bunch.
I got one. I got one that overlaps with yours, so I'm going to say a little about it. You can talk more about it. So Pano Radar is a new tool that can give robots superhuman vision by transforming simple radio waves into detailed 3D views of the world around them. So one of the reasons that this is important is that, as we've said, let's put this in context of how AI is engaging in our world. One of the pieces of that is it going to be superhuman before it's super general, right? Before it's superhuman across a ton of industries. And this is one of those specific situations where it does not need to be superhuman at everything, because superhuman vision is amazing, right? So now your robot is your um microscope is the word. I'm like telescope, stethoscope. Keep going. We're just gonna scope it all until we get to the right word. Now your robot is your microscope. It's your microscope that walks around, right? And can do any level of adjustment in what it's looking at, based on perhaps natural language natural language communication, or just its goal. Your goal is to do these things. Like, there's so much about bringing vision in. We talked about it earlier this week too. Like, adding vision and adding AI's ability to take in everything in the field of vision that they're able to see and then process it is just amazing. All right, I know you saw that story, Jyunmi.
Oh, yeah. No, it was part of my list, but you got to it, so awesome. But I got two more for everybody. One is Johns Hopkins University basically worked on a way to train surgical robots using imitation learning through watching videos of surgeries from the Da Vinci robot. So if you've ever seen the Da Vinci robot, it's this multi-armed robot that they'll roll into, surgical theaters and things like that. And it'll help assist doctors with high resolution images and holding different tools and performing, certain tasks and things like that.
Importantly, the Da Vinci robots, which have been around for a while, used in all kinds of minimally invasive surgical procedures. So very, very small things. They're manipulated by the surgeon, so they are extensions of the surgeon's arms. But now, what you're talking about is the robot learning how to do it with instruction from the surgeon, like, hold this for me now.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. Right.
So here's the best part. They say that with just a few of these videos, or a few hundred of these videos, their AI can grasp and they can grasp the entire procedure that they want done and can perform it as skillfully. That blew my mind. So the robot can now perform the surgical procedure.
So what implies then is that the robot has to have real-time interpretation of its visual feed to the surgeon. So it's looking at the screen. And we've heard about this kind of thing with, Anthropic's computer use system, which is taking very rapid snapshots of the visuals that are on your screen in order to understand what you're seeing and then act on that vision. So here now it's being applied to surgery. Amazing.
Yeah. And so what I think the thing that got me thinking the most here is, in robotics, in computers, there's a surge of the new technology and then the creation of a micro version of it, right? It gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And then we have other technologies like microbots and nanobots that are working on internal. So like, Anne, you had mentioned the less evasive. I'm thinking down the line, you're first going to start with surgical robots in the theaters, right? Working on with your doctors on a whole, whatever multiple procedures that you need done. But as that improves, the smaller and smaller it can get. And I'm imagining, maybe 10 years down the line, we can have a portable surgical robot for field use. It may be the new first aid kit, but that's some really, out there forward ideas. But that's kind of what these spark, right? Is these ideas like, if that can be done, then we can take it and run with it down whatever path that we want to. We can imagine so many things now.
Right.
You going to say something, Beth?
Yeah, because so I'm super excited this is happening at Johns Hopkins because I live in the DC area and that's just next door neighbor. And I have a singing friend. She's a professional singer, and she has something growing that when they do surgery may because of the amount, because like the nerve that goes to the ear that does your hearing from the outside into your brain is really, really tricky, right? It's a ton of stuff in a small space. Like if you snip something, like boom, it's gone. And there are lots of opportunities for that kind of error in trying to do the surgery that's required. And we literally have had a conversation about, because it's not something that immediately needs to be done. So then when do you schedule? Right. The question is, when is a good time to schedule potentially losing your hearing in one ear as a singer? Right. Like,
Yeah.
at some point it should go, but that's a hard thing. And because of what I do is like, hey, I think stuff's changing really quickly. Right. I think it's possible that in 6 months, the risk to hearing will be lower. And I'm so excited about these two stories because if you have a robot that has superhuman vision and can learn the surgery and can make those tiny, minute kind of interactions with body matter, right? I mean, that's essentially what you're doing. That's just super exciting, right? I mean, that for me, like, wow, that's cool. No, this is this is real lives being changed, and I even know the real life.
Yeah, I think one of the things that hits home for me is these are all applied use cases, right? These are all direct. This is going to improve at least one person's life, period. So that's the most exciting thing for me, because in a lot of other fields, it's, we can apply it to business, we can apply it to personal use, we can apply it to your day to day. And these are all quality of life improvements. Great. It does make your work easier, more efficient. Great. But in medicine and in science, this is going to improve not just your quality of life or just your life. This is going to save someone's life. This is going to correct some, maybe they got into a terrible accident. This can save them from, from whatever consequences and those kinds of things. All the AI in, disease science and studies and things like that to prevent the next superbug and things like that. So that is one of the things that makes me so excited. Also, I'm a sci-fi guy, so this is like, oh yeah. That means we're only a few more years before what this book said we're going to be.
There we go.
Or this movie, those kinds of things.
Well, all right. To what you were just saying, the next story that I have is AlphaFold 3 being released to open source, right? So that, for people who don't know, that that was the winner of the Nobel Prize in chemistry this year. Demis Sabas and John. Sorry, I had it before we went live. And we will put it in the chat. What they had been holding back, so like it was usable, but they hadn't released the weights and the training data, and now they've released the weights so that you could conceivably go in and like tweak it, right, in whatever direction that you want, specifically because it is such a valuable like humanity tool or something that can become a tool now that it's really been released open source. And that's very cool, right? Like it literally is the Nobel Prize winner for what?
So for our watchers and listeners who don't know what AlphaFold 3 is, can you give us a breakdown?
Okay. So the AlphaFold series identifies proteins based on the information in based on the combination of the information that it can go through to identify new proteins. Am I saying that correctly, Andy? Moderately?
Yes, that's essentially correct. Let me just elaborate a little bit.
Yep.
So the objective is to discover new compounds, new proteins that can affect the body in beneficial ways. And maybe even discover proteins that might be very, very damaging to the body, and so it could be avoided. So AlphaFold is a very large deep learning model that's designed to experiment and test with rules-based understanding of how proteins work and invent new proteins and then evaluate them. And so it's a discovery mechanism, and it's already been very, very helpful in arriving at new proteins that can be used therapeutically in humans.
And the difference between 2 and 3, and one of the reasons that 3 is so significant, is that then it is also looking at how it interacts with RNA and the other systems in the body that would need to interact with the new protein that you've come up with, the new compound. So very exciting. And also, like,
exciting.
When did Nobel Prizes come out? Like it feels like everything. So AI is moving incredibly quickly. It feels like everything around AI is now also moving incredibly quickly, right? Like,
Well, it's that web of information, right? Brian just hopped onto the show. Thank you for joining, Brian. Okay, so now you just joined us, so I'm going to throw it to you. What do you got for Story-Wise?
I have no idea what you guys have talked about so far. I will tell you today, I don't mind sharing this, that I was just saying this in the private chat, that this is the first time I've done this. I've come close to be like, oh, the show's starting soon. But I was so head down working on this AI solution for Scaled for a client. And then I'm doing some training today. Then I got the notification that said the show's going to start. And the next time I looked up, we were 15 minutes after the hour. Like, this is why it's great to have co-hosts, reliable co-hosts. I felt very confident since my Slack wasn't blowing up that you guys were here rocking and rolling. So I won't take up any more time on that. But yeah, that's a first for me. So, but at least I was working on AI stuff. I wasn't like somewhere else. I legit was working on like a really cool AI use case. So that's fun. I wanted to talk about Particle, which I've heard of Particle before. And there's somebody, that says launches an AI news app to help publishers instead of just stealing their work. I thought this was interesting. They're backed by a $4.4 million seed funding and a $10.9 million Series A, led by Lightspeed. Particle was founded last year, which is interesting because I knew I had heard of them before, and I was almost positive I've used Particle before. By the former senior director of product management at Twitter, Sarah Biekpour, don't quote me on that, who worked on products like Twitter Blue, Twitter Video, and so on and so forth. So the idea here is that, it says the media industry today, by the way, I'm reading from TechCrunch, so credit to TechCrunch for this. The media industry today may not have very favorable views of AI. A technology has already been used to replace reporters with AI written copy, while other companies have scooped up journalistic work to feed their own chatbots, but without returning the traffic to the publisher, as search engines once did. Now it's saying there's a new AI reader called Particle from the former engineers, believes that AI could serve a valuable role in media industry by helping consumers make sense of the news, think deeper into the stories while still finding a way to support the publisher's business. So I like this. I like it. And I've used Particle. I'm almost positive I've used Particle before. I definitely recognize the name. And it's sort of like in the perplexity land, which is like what we saw with the elections. It's interesting to watch these companies now try to use AI, well, for good. And I think we could all agree with supporting publishers and writers. They're so crucial. I know I personally don't want to read everything curated from an AI bot. Sometimes it's okay for some reason such, but sometimes I'm looking for really innovative, net new angles to a topic, whether it's AI education or whatever. And there's just people, journalists who have been doing this for a long time and are phenomenal at it. So I like this idea of using AI for the user standpoint, which is help me curate really great stuff, put it in front of my eyes and make it easier for me so I don't have to go to 10 different sources, while also supporting publishers and making sure that the eyeballs are going back. It is kind of what Perplexity does. It's not like Perplexity claims information it came up with its own, hence the citations. But if there's a more, I wouldn't call Perplexity like the go-to for news per se. So if you get something that has the industry standard of what I would consider an AP News or Reuters, to me, those are the two that I always feel confident I can go to, bar none. You're going to get a pretty much down the middle. I'm not saying there's no bias, but down the middle, it's not CNN, it's not Fox News, right? So you're going to get it down the middle. And if you compare the two, that's even better. So I just like this idea. I like this idea of it. I hope they do well with it. Of course, you're always worried about with these types of technologies, these AI solutions, Sarah, for instance, who's the former project manager of Twitter, where is her bias? We all have it. So how is she ensuring that, Particle and the people working on Particle are not injecting their own bias and then potentially skewing news stories? And that's the biggest challenge, right? It's to give a down the middle view, a true, pure down the middle view for the reader, while also making sure that credit is given where credit is due and money is going and flowing back to these publishers. So cool idea nonetheless. Just wanted to make sure I brought it up because I like the idea. We'll see if they're successful with it or not.
Yeah, no, I thought that was an interesting news story that hit because, I mean, they definitely, the headline I saw was, right, instead of stealing, right? So
Yeah.
it's probably focused on the training data side of things because we've seen OpenAI and Perplexity share into, their own court cases about that. But I like the aggregation idea there, Brian, and yeah, doing it that method encourages that deeper dive. Like you said, it encourages a little more critical thinking on how you're absorbing the news, and any process or system that's going to help people do that, I think it's going to be an overall good for the space.
Yeah, you think about it. I mean, inherently, the language models aren't really a great fit for news. If we're talking about like if you're taking the definition as news as something that's happened recently, right? Or just throw recent news in front of it. And I guess anything could be news. But we're talking about like headline news stuff that's in AI. We look, this is what we're doing today, right? Quite literally, sort of a meta situation. So language models aren't going to be great because like what would be, except for previous context to maybe a story, what would be the real value of stealing, that information from New York Times or whatever, and having it as part of the language model for it to draw on? What you really want is like some sort of version of a Perplexity, and Google's working on this. Obviously, ChatGPT or OpenAI is working on it as well. But you really want this solution where the language model, the base prompting, the system prompting is really about the curation. It's about the novel way that maybe that'll be their secret sauce that they're able to grow on and raise more money on, is how are they going and curating the right type of news and information to make sure that they don't get swept up and the AI doesn't accidentally bring in fake news, which if it's scouring the internet, it's just as likely to grab all their AI generated fake stuff, right? So how is it going to wash that out? How is it going to make sure that it's consistent every day? How do you make sure that it's reliable? It's a big challenge. It really is. But I love the focus on, hey, we can go and grab the news. It's really the secret sauce, and what Particle and Perplexity and others have to get really good at is, what do you do with that recent data all the way up to who won the game last night in whatever sport you follow? How do you take that information, validate that it's true, the stats are true, the baseball stats are true, whatever, and then present it in a way to user that seems really easy and like consumable, and eventually I would assume that this will move into multimodal, and it'll be avatar generated videos. And then there'll be a whole host of other problems they have to solve for, which is like, how do I present this news, but also do it with an avatar that also doesn't mess up it once it gets there? So it can get a deep dive. It's a bigger conversation, just a news story, but my point to this is it's a tough if it's a tough challenge. So it's cool to see that there's companies like taking this on, because it's kind of an uphill battle. I don't think it's an easy win for I'll just create an AI news app. Well, to do that right and be respected in the news community and have the support of both users and the people making the news or publishing the journalists is kind of that's a big task. So good for them, I guess.
Getting it right is going to be key through moving into that space. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, before I move on to my next story, I wanted to do a shout out to Jen, one of our OG chatters, who's apparently joining us via the plane. If they have Wi-Fi on their plane, and as they fly off to Taylor Swift, they wanted to say, hi, Jen. Well, hi, Jen. Talking about, advanced technology, Wi-Fi on your plane. Unfortunately, they don't have it over the ocean yet. So maybe you're right yet. Was it Skylink or whatnot to work on that? But
I don't know this answer, but are there no airlines that are currently using Starlink to produce?
I don't know. I've flown on a couple different ones, but Delta isn't. They're not using Starlink yet for their oceanic flights, anyway. So
I didn't know that.
That using Aerie is a ground-based system to towers and things like that.
By the way, probably a first. I mean, we don't know, obviously, because certainly other people could know this, but very cool. Regenerate 30,000 square feet, 30,000 space. Yeah.
See, you're a prediction engine. You knew that the next word was supposed to be feet as soon as you said 30,000.
Yeah, she's a cube. She's in the top of a cube in the set. That's what I meant to say.
All right, and not a difficult segue, but let's talk a little bit about travel, sort of tangentially, and I'm going to talk about DeepL Voice. They are a translation service, so when you go traveling, you can have your voice translated.
Jay, that's like, you did it. You got the reach. You got it. You didn't. You didn't keep going. You didn't.
So DeepL has been in the translation game for a little while now, but they're announcing DeepL Voice, which it's a little different than what we've seen for what I'd call post production or pre-recorded audio and video. Such from like 11 Labs and things like that can do translations, right? Their dubbing feature allows you to translate your video or your voice into various languages. But DeepL can take the 33 languages that they support, and this is supposed to be real-time translation. So something on your phone, you take it to a meeting, or talking to somebody on the street, you can ask the questions and they can respond. Native language responds, translates in real time. But it does translate into text so you can read it, and then you can speak, translate it in text, and then they can read it. So they do see the possibility of moving to voice or other paths that this could be developed into. But the key element here is that it can translate your whatever audio input into one of those 33 languages. So I think that's a huge step for them. Now I want real-time voice-to-voice and real-time video and audio, because next step is let's pop that into our AR glasses, or let's pop that into a number of devices. Just have your phone, just have your Bluetooth earbud that have mics on them, and start doing some real-time translation so that everyone in the world can understand each other a little better. But that was my segue story. Does anybody have anything else that they really, really want to talk about? Oh, Brian, yes, pen to face.
Listen, I just wanted to see if I could do a cool segue like you, so I thought about T Swift and Jen in the sky. And that made me think of Lucy in the Sky and the Diamonds, which made me think of the Beatles, which made me think of the Beatles AI generated song, which got nominated for 2 Grammys. Oh God, nice.
He's mastered the weave.
Perfect. And to double segue off of that, AI made songs. YouTube's introducing their new AI generated song remix feature to their beta test, so you can take the songs and remix it into various styles, similar to what we've seen a few weeks ago or a couple months ago from like Duno. So, but with everything that YouTube offers.
And Jerry Garcia's estate just approved his voice to be used. So lead singer of the Grateful Dead, most people know who, well, our age people know who that is, I guess, can now read you books and articles to you. So if you like Jerry Garcia, which I'll be honest with you, I only know Jerry Garcia in terms of like his singing voice. I have no idea what he sounds like or should sound like in a normal reading voice that's not in a 20-minute jam session. Because that's kind of what I know of the Grateful Dead. But I'm not a deadhead, but if you are a deadhead and you really love and miss Jerry Garcia, his estate has made it possible for his voice to be read or used through, we all know and love him, 11 Labs. So another story there. So there you go, 3 stories.
So in the world of media and entertainment, there used to be this television show about the California Highway Patrol called Chips. So I'm going to talk about Chips now.
Love it.
So Amazon Web Services is one of the biggest cloud providers of compute out there for various applications. And they've also made an investment by acquiring a company back in 2015 called Annapurna Labs from Austin. And they are building this set of chips for inference, so AI chips, processing chips, to compete with or reduce their reliance on NVIDIA chips. And that line of chips is called Trainium. They've just begun testing Trainium 2, which is going to have 4 times the speed of inference and other performance measures as compared to Trainium 1. Now, the other interesting aspect of this is that they're already using Trainium clusters with Anthropic, with Databricks, Deutsche Telekom. So there's some very big players who are using Trainium as an alternative to the NVIDIA chips for inference. Remember, NVIDIA has 90% of the market. Well, Amazon, pretty big company out there, big user of AI chips, is developing their own line. And they launched an initiative called Build on Trainium. And this is expressly funding of $110 million for AI research in academia. Okay, that program is up to $11 million to an educational institution in Trainium credits. So you can do training of models on the Trainium clusters at Amazon Web Services, up to $11 million. And already University of California at Berkeley and Carnegie Mellon, 2 very major AI advanced research centers, are using those Trainium systems for development. Now, why is this important? This is important because only about less than $2 billion has been given by the government to academic research centers, while AI investment by the private sector is over $350 billion. So a very, very big difference in the amount of money that's going there. So now here's a major company providing funding, but this also raises some questions, some concerns about potential corruption of academic research funding by the private sector. But that's just the way it's been for PhD researchers forever. Like, how do I get a company to fund my research and not redirect the interest that I have as a pure academic in pursuing some outcome? Instead, I have to find some match between what the company that's going to provide funding for this research is interested in and what I'm interested in. So that is a way that companies can steer academic research in certain directions. But Trainium, chips, and California Highway Patrol, follow that.
All right.
Gwen loved your chips reference, and Justin also said chips LL flashback. So I love that they are. I love that our audience gets us and they're here with us. Clearly, we're making ourselves laugh, but it is good to know there's other people out there in LinkedIn land and YouTube land that are laughing along with us too. Go ahead, Beth. What you got?
All right. Chips and Trainium reminds me of Snacks and Cranium, which is a game which is about using the information that you have in your head to give other people clues about what you know or what you want them to say. All right. There was a case heard and decided in New York. Judge McMahon said that the prosecution or it's not the prosecution, it's not that kind of case, did not prove the plaintiff failed to demonstrate tangible harm from OpenAI's use of their content. Given the vast amount of training data used by GPT, the judge deemed it unlikely that AI would output plagiarized content from any specific source. Now, if you're playing Cranium with an AI, it might be better at giving clues and giving drawings, and it's been a really long time. Maybe there's a charade thing as well. There's probably a charade part of Cranium. But that is not the same as completely duplicating something in a way that would be harmful to the original creator. All right. Take that.
Listen, you said Judge McMahon, which made me think of Ed McMahon, which made me think of Johnny Carson and The Tonight Show, which was hosted for many years out of LA, which naturally made me think of the story about Waymo, who just got rid of their waitlist for people to hail driverless taxis in LA. So let's talk about Waymo really quick, because this is a good reminder that just because Elon Musk does really elaborately, overly robo-taxis and Robovan, and so I always have to think about which way he says that, and all this stuff, and it's coming in so many years, and this is what I tax it. Yeah, like Waymo and Cruise, these companies have been around for a while. Waymo, it does say in this thing, I thought we had talked about maybe they've been split off from Alphabet, but at least in this article from CNET, they say they are still part of the Alphabet parent, that's their parent company. And so now this wait list has been released, and now you can take 24/7 rides across nearly 80 square miles of LA County, including Santa Monica, Beverly Hills, and downtown LA, with plans to expand in areas soon. You cannot get on the highways currently, but that's not to say Waymo is incapable of highways, because as you read later in the article, they are already getting on the highways in Phoenix, which is sort of the epicenter of where we saw Waymo do it. I missed my chance. I was in Phoenix at the same time, and I probably could have gotten a Waymo, and I didn't. But what this really story is about is that they got rid of the wait list, which says that this is something people want. There was a wait list for people to want to get in a driverless taxi and take them around the county. If that doesn't at least talk about early adoption and trust that the car is going to arrive safely with you in it without accidents. And it doesn't specifically talk about the stats here, but we talked about in a previous show, the stats for Waymo are exceptional. When you looked at their crash reports and stuff, remember we talked about it on the show, and somebody had looked at it and they said, look, it's so many like fatals, whatever. But then if you extracted out the ones where it had nothing to do with the Waymo car, but it had to be reported because it was rear-ended or whatever the case is, but the car wasn't, it was down to like 2 or 3 over hundreds of thousands of rides or something like that. So they're going to be expanding, it says here, into the Atlanta area and the Austin area in 2025. Further expansion in Phoenix, further expansion in LA. And frankly, I'm ready for them to come to Tampa, because I think it's really cool to see what Waymo has done and how they have, quite frankly, gained the confidence of the user base to say, we're reliable, we will get you somewhere and your family safely, and this is a new alternative. As opposed to, I mean, nothing against robotaxis and Tesla and all that. Great if it shows up, but it's here. We don't have to wait 2 or 3 years. There's companies on the ground right now doing thousands upon thousands of hours of driving. Yeah, go ahead.
No Waymo. You know, the riders are now really liking Waymo, and they're adopting, the Waymo cars, and they're riding in them. So riders are adopting that. That's an important development. And you know what? Ryder is a company that just got $200 million at a $2 billion valuation because enterprises are adopting them as a generative AI tool for writing inside the corporation. What corporations? Accenture. Accenture is one of the biggest AI service providers out there. They use Writer. Now, we don't talk about Writer here a lot on the show, but I think it's been mentioned before. So 1.9 billion valuation means that they're getting a lot of traction in the enterprise market. Accenture uses them, Intuit, Spotify, Hilton, Uber, United Healthcare. So they're making a lot of money out there. They use a full stack enterprise AI platform using their own LLMs, Palmyra models. Those models have been trained on enterprise writing tasks. And they're also developing a system for AI agents capable of planning and executing workflows across various business systems and team structures. So writers is getting adopted as riders are adopting.
That's awesome. I missed 20% of what you said because I was laughing so hard at no Waymo. It made me cry. It was making me laugh so hard. I had to go on mute. That was awesome.
Yes, wait, and don't call me Mo.
There's a throwback. There's people who have to be at least our age to get that one.
Go
ahead, Jimmy.
All right. So, well, number one, I was going to end on a little bit of a heartwarming story. But because we had the Waymo story, we had the writer story, I can't weave it terribly into it anymore. I've dropped the ball, everybody. I'm sorry. I'm ending the weave. But I wanted to close on another heartwarming AI and science AI for good story. And that is the Mount Sinai Hospital and School of Medicine have developed a way, or they've developed an AI to monitor the video cameras that are watching all of the babies in the NICU, right? And so that's the natal ICU. This is where, they have to be constantly watched and monitored to make sure that they come out healthy and everything like that. Now, while they admit this is just an early study, what the AI can do is what they're calling pose AI, but they can interpret the video and how the body moves, how the baby's body moves and things like that to identify possible neurological changes and just changes in their health. So what they're seeing this as an applied version is to help enhance response time to possible changes. So this is AI being applied to enhance the medical professionals in being able to take care of these children. And I think that's a great heartwarming story about AI to end on. So if there isn't anything else, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Please come back tomorrow. We have an episode about using AI in your own personal goal settings, getting your own metrics and things like that from an Allie Miller LinkedIn post. And then on Friday, we have our bi-weekly recap where we'll talk about all the stories over the last 2 weeks. And that's about it. Everybody enjoy your day.